Hello everyone and welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among other things. Now we're taking a look at Ethereum Classic here today, and we're going to just look at best practice and overall good entry points for you to help you make an informed decision. And if you're new to the channel, we always just look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to kind of set the baseline, see what's going on in the market. Now I'm not a financial advisor. This is always for educational purposes only. I recommend you do your own research, but just know I've been in the industry for a very long time. My goal is to help you understand how to become a better, more effective trader. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and check that out. Oh, I apologize. One last thing. I do have a link to my Patreon, my Discord, and my Telegram communities down below. Feel free to reference that on your own time. All right, so let's go ahead and check it out. Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum Classic. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum to essentially get a baseline on the market so we understand generally what's going on, what's driving the price, and kind of get a big picture, right? So let's take a look at that first. Now, Bitcoin had a slight sell-off here today. Hopefully it is going to slow down and recover, to make higher highs and higher lows. But at this point here, you can kind of see that the 50-day moving average held as a strong resistance level, as well as the previous current resistance of 38,800. So that's right now about what our resistance level is at. The 50-day moving average will intersect with that line soon. Minus that, we do have a secondary resistance at 42,300. So just be mindful of that as well. And the 200-day moving average is well above, so don't need to worry about that for a while, but that is known as a pretty strong support and resistance level for Bitcoin. All right, so that's essentially where we're at there. Not bad, not good, just kind of pretty standard, especially considering the fact that the 50-day moving average has been pretty consistent with working as a support and resistance level. Okay, so our next major milestone will be to get over that 50-day moving average. Now Ethereum, again, mirror image here, almost identical. The 50-day moving average came down to intersect with the price. When I reviewed it yesterday, it was right around here. So it is interesting to see that kind of fulfilling the similar scenario as Bitcoin. They are mirroring each other right now. So typically Ethereum does well when Bitcoin doesn't, but at this point, that's not the case. It's completely different. They're essentially working the exact same at this time. Only difference is the 200-day moving average is in a different position than for Bitcoin. It's trailing further behind, so that might be a potential resistance level eventually soon. We'll see what happens with that. All right, so let's look at Ethereum Classic. And I apologize, I forgot to preface, this is the Binance desktop trading application, and I use TradingView within, so you can just click on the corner link there and find that if you'd like to kind of follow along and add the same indicators. I use the 50 and the 200-day simple moving average. That's these purple and yellow lines. And then I also use the View app and EMA. I'll cover that in just a moment. But first things first, we'll look at the one-day chart and work our way down. So this is the one-day chart for Ethereum Classic. Now, I always like to look at the one-day chart so we can get a quick history, a quick glimpse of how it got to where it's at. Ethereum Classic is an interesting scenario. In other words, if you look at this increase in price, was 5-day period. Ethereum Classic went up over 400%. Okay, so that significant growth caused the price to retrace and come back down. Now it was trying to consolidate in this channel of 82 upwards of 110. That is where it should have stayed. But if you can see here, this long red candle bar, that is essentially the China candle. Okay, that's an easy way to summarize it with the finance issues that with Bitcoin and the finance industry over in China that caused that to come way down. And now we're working as it's working as a resistance level instead of a support with the approximate of 8150. So we're going to expand that out, kind of pull that out a little further because you can see it worked as a resistance here recently and pushed the price back down. Also note, the 50-day moving average did work as a support level, so we've definitely got that going for us, as well as the fact that 200-day moving average is trailing behind, as it usually does. We won't see that impact the price for quite some time. Looking at the volume, no significant increase in volume. However, we do see some green volume bars here, and that's a good sign. We want to see that in order to get that bullish momentum getting back into Ethereum Classic. Now down below too, MACD, the moving average convergence divergence, it's essentially swinging back upwards, but not super hard. So simply put, I don't put a lot of weight into that one. I think the 4-hour chart tells us a lot more. but the moving average just basically tells us that there is bullish momentum at this point. RSI is fairly neutral. This is a good sign. A lot of room for increase without a significant retracement. So I'd like to see, as the price get tested here in the next couple of days, to test this resistance of roughly 81.50 and to break above and hold above. That would be fantastic, because then that would work as a new support and we could see some continued upward price momentum. Now looking at the 4-hour chart here, just a few things to note, important things to understand, is the 200 and the 50-day moving average are both working as support levels. So you see here, the 50-day moving average came down to intersect with the 200-day moving average, and they're both underneath the price action right now. So that's going to work as a pretty strong support, which is excellent. The only thing is we have this resistance of 81.50. So what we'll likely see is a channel. It'll create a channel and likely break above that in the near future, because of the fact that it's been tested quite a few times in the past. And it would be nice to see that broken above. It almost tested it 3 times in a row, according to the 4-hour chart here recently. Okay, didn't quite break above, okay, of course, because Bitcoin had sold off recently. But if, again, Bitcoin keeps consolidating between 37 and 40,000, we will see Ethereum Classic bounce up into the channel of 81.50, upwards of 110. Okay, so that is likely the case here in the very, very near future. So I'd speculate at this point in time, this is likely a pretty good entry point. Any price under 81.50, it would be a good entry point, based on the simple fact that we have that both moving averages kind of holding the price in place. Furthermore, the MACD does imply that we have bullish sentiment. It is tapering off a little bit, but that's normal with a slight consolidation phase. We kind of want that to happen. That way we don't run into another scenario where it retraces down heavily. But we're still in really, really good shape here. RSI is well under 70 and not really considered overbought at this point, which is very, very good. All right. Now for the 15-minute chart, I always like to identify a couple of things. First of all, I disable my moving averages just because they kind of get in the way. It's extra things that are on the screen that can kind of get annoying, personally. But let's look at the VWAP and the EMA. Okay. Now, if you're new to the channel, the VWAP is my favorite indicator, and the EMA is my second favorite indicator. They both work together perfectly. Now, the VWAP is this blue line here. That's the volume weighted average price. That works as a consistent support and resistance level. So instead of always drawing new lines, you can use this as a consistent support and resistance level. And right now, obviously, it's working as a support. And what it does is telling us the average volume expressed as a price over the last 24 hours. So right now, the average volume is telling us $73.20 is the current price. That's what it should be. Now with the price being above, that's excellent, because that does imply we still have bullish sentiment. Now regardless of this consolidation here, which is completely normal, we should likely expect to see the price stay above the VWAP as it was tested and held above recently, with just a minor variance of maybe $2. Now the EMA line is this red line here. That's the exponential moving average, and that essentially tells us if there is bullish or bearish sentiment, right? In other words, the price action stays above this red line, then it's likely consistent with bullish trends. If it drops below and stays below, then it's more bearish. Now, as you can see, it did drop below the EMA, but it came back up and recovered, tested the resistance, came down, lost, and now it's back up over again. So ideally, what we want to see here before taking confirmation is another green bar, another 15-minute candlestick, closing above the EMA and the VWAP line, and that would be a possibility of a good entry point somewhere in this range here. Now looking at the RSI, fantastic. It's really in good shape. Even though the price is fairly high here, you can see that it peaked up over 70 a couple of times. It came back down and continued upwards. So it's got good momentum, good push. So I think it is likely to continue to test this resistance level and eventually break. Again, all contingent on Bitcoin not selling down to 30 to 32,000, right? Bitcoin can stay 37, 38, 39,000 for the next couple of days. We will see this test and break that resistance level quite soon. And Ethereum has a tendency of breaking resistance levels very, very hard. So I would not be surprised if the price comes up there, tests again, the bears are essentially becoming exhausted, and then the price rocket right through. Okay, there's a really strong likelihood of that, just based on its history and how it works. Now let's look at the 1-minute chart just to quickly identify. There's that line I just drew arbitrarily. We can remove that. But generally speaking, you see here the price is hovering above and below the actual support level or resistance level, depending on which side it's on, which is a VWAP, right? So the average price is telling us. So in other words, this is consolidating perfectly along this line. That basically says that the price is where it should be right now. Now it's going to continue likely upwards because the bullish momentum, it has to calm down first. But as you can see, with the increase in volume and the significant amount of green bars here, I would venture to guess we're going to see the price continue upwards very, very soon. Now, to find a good entry point here, usually if you're going to be using a 1 minute chart, I always try to identify at least 3 solid green candles that are closing above the EMA and the VWAP line. So if I look here and you see the EMA and the VWAP line, this would be a case in point where it might be consideration of taking an entry point after you see 2 to 3 green candle bars closing above the EMA line. Okay. Now again, it's easier said than done, of course, because it just came up. I know that. I recognize that. It's like, obviously it went up. But generally speaking, if you kind of honor that, you're looking in pretty good shape. I mean, you could see the same thing back here as well, but the price being under VWAP isn't really the best entry point to me. I like to have that extra confirmation, that understanding of knowing that the VWAP is going to work as a support instead of a resistance level. But just note that the 1 minute chart may not always be the best thing to consider, because if you're a short-term swing trader, 15-minute chart all day. You want to use the 15-minute chart because it doesn't give you as many false positives, if that makes sense. It's a little more consistent, because when a 15-minute green bar closes, you know that it was bullish in that scenario, instead of maybe a couple of 1 minute green bars that could shift at any time. Okay, so be mindful of that, be careful. Only use the 1 minute chart if you're doing a short-term day trade that might only last a couple of hours or less. If you're looking at a swing trade, 1 to 30 days, then the best indicator to use is the 15-minute time frame, but the EMA and the VWAP line on that time frame itself. Okay, just something to be mindful of. And also just another thing to note too, if you're new to the channel, I like to use good risk management. So make sure that you are only risking what you are willing to lose, right? In other words, for me, I'm never willing to lose more than 1% of my overall portfolio. So if I'm trading with $1,000, for example, then I never want to lose more than 10. So I'll set my stop limit at $10 loss, but I'm going to shoot for a $20 to $30 gain every single time I take entry, right? That's just kind of the general concept of how I look at things and how I do it. So just be careful when you take an entry and you're not quite sure and you don't have confirmation. Take a small position. Do not take a large position. Never go all in unless you know for a fact that Ethereum Classic is your end-all be-all, the only coin you ever want to invest in, right? Again, just something to consider. But that being said, just try to remember all this. I think that if you can, take 1 or 2 little things I just taught you here today and use that moving forward, you'll be much more successful. It's taken me years to perfect this, but I can tell you that even though it's not an exact science, I'm constantly profitable, and it's because I have patience and I have good risk management. All right. So I'll have future videos regarding that so you understand more specifically what I mean by that, because there's more than just a risk tolerance for good risk management. But generally speaking, you just want to be cautious and careful. Try not to just buy into the hype and jump in when you feel like you get this intuition. Oh, I have good intuition, I feel it, I'm good. You might get lucky a few times, but you will get burned eventually, and it's going to hurt really bad when that 10x gain becomes 20x loss, and that's a tough thing to walk away from. Okay, so anyways, let's just be smart. Let's help educate each other and hold each other accountable, right? So I have a good Telegram community. Feel free to communicate with everyone there. I've also got a really good group of Patreon supporters moving forward too. So thank you to all my subscribers and my my Patreon contributes. You are all very, very awesome. And that being said, let's go ahead and see you in the next video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Really appreciate your time. Take care.